I've been clairvoyant my whole life. It's a gift, I guess, passed down through my family. I'm used to spirits, but I have never, ever experienced anything like this. This is the story of the night a ghost hitched a ride in my car and showed me exactly how she was murdered. You hear stories, right? Campfire tales, whispers in the dark, things people post online in the middle of the night when the floorboards won't stop creaking. You read them, you get a quick chill, and then you flick on the light and it all just fades. But for me, it doesn't always fade. The light doesn't always work. The world most people see, the solid, predictable one, is only part of the picture for me. It's like there's an overlay, a transparent layer of echoes and emotions, of figures that linger in doorways and watch traffic go by from the windows of empty houses. My grandma called it the shine, which, if I'm being honest, always sounded a little too much like a storybook. My mom just calls it our sight. It's been on the maternal side of our family for as long as anyone can remember. We see things, we feel things, we communicate with what's left behind. Most of the time, it's not scary. It's like living in a house where a TV is always on in another room. This background noise, and you learn to tune it out. A flicker in your peripheral vision, a sudden drop in temperature, the faint smell of perfume in an empty hall. Paranormal investigators would probably call them residual hauntings, like an energy imprint left on a place. They're just recordings, echoes of a life playing on a loop with no awareness. They can't see you. They can't hurt you. They just are. But this was different. This wasn't a recording. This was an intelligent presence. It was aware, it was focused, and it was desperate. This was the night I learned the real difference between a harmless echo and a spirit with unfinished business. This is the story I don't tell at parties. It's the one my mom and I only talk about in hushed tones, even all these years later. It's the story of the woman in the backseat of my car, and the horrifying truth she forced me to see. The day it happened was aggressively, painfully normal. It was a Tuesday in late October. The air had that crisp, biting edge that promises winter is coming, and the sky was just a flat, boring gray. I'd spent the day running the kind of soul-crushing errands that make you question your life choices. Post office, grocery store, bank. Nothing about it screamed portent of doom. No black cats, no broken mirrors. My clairvoyance had been pretty quiet. For years, I tried to suppress it, to build walls around my mind to keep the whispers out because, frankly, it's exhausting being a constant antenna for the spiritual world. But lately, I'd been trying to be more open to it. My mother encouraged me, believing our gift was meant to help where we could. So, I'd been meditating, practicing, trying to control the dial instead of just shutting the whole system off. The experiences had been getting more frequent, but they were manageable. A spirit in a historical building wanting to talk about her kids. A man who'd passed in a hospital wanting me to tell his wife he was okay. Sad sometimes, but never terrifying. That evening, my mom called. Her car was in the shop, and she needed a ride to a specialist appointment in a part of town neither of us knew well. It was on the industrial outskirts of the city, a sprawling, anonymous landscape of warehouses and chain-link fences. The kind of place you only go if you have to. The appointment ran late. By the time we left the sterile medical building, the sun had long since given up, leaving behind a deep, starless dark. The streetlights cast these long, distorted shadows that made the empty streets feel even more desolate. We were tired. Mom was quiet, and I was just focused on navigating us out of this concrete maze and back to the comfort of our own neighborhood. Of course, my phone's GPS was on the fritz, the little blue dot jumping erratically across the screen. I think we're lost, I sighed, frustration creeping into my voice. Mom just nodded, her head resting against the passenger window. She's sensitive like me, but she carries it differently. She's a lighthouse in my perpetual psychic storm. If she felt anything was off, she didn't show it. It was during our aimless wandering that we saw it. The road we turned down was long and poorly lit, flanked on one side by a lumber yard. On the other side were two buildings so bizarrely out of place, I actually slowed the car down to stare. On the left was a brand new, slick-looking cannabis dispensary. All polished chrome and bright, welcoming green lights. It looked like an Apple store for stoners. and right next to it, sharing a wall, was a crematorium. It was an old, grim brick building with a tall, thin smokestack pointing accusingly at the sky. No lights on, just a dark, hulking shape against the night. A place of endings right next to a place of escapism. The juxtaposition was jarring, almost darkly funny. "Well, that's one-stop shopping," I muttered, trying to break the silence. Mom didn't laugh. She just stared at the two buildings as we drove past. "Weird," was all she said. I kept driving, looking for a familiar street sign, but the GPS remained stubbornly silent. After another 5 minutes of heading deeper into the industrial wasteland, I pulled over with a groan. "This is pointless. I'm just going to turn around and go back the way we came. We have to hit a main road eventually." So, I made a U-turn and started heading back towards that odd couple of buildings. And that's when it started. A tiny prickle on the back of my neck, the kind you get when you feel like you're being watched. The air in the car, warm from the heater, suddenly seemed to thin out. A cold spot began to form in the back seat. A palpable drop in temperature that had nothing to do with the October night outside. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Nothing. Just an empty back seat. But I knew we weren't alone anymore. I didn't say anything to my mom at first. I mean, what do you say? "Hey, Mom, I think a ghost just got in the car?" Still an awkward thing to bring up. I told myself it was nothing. The creepy industrial park, the late hour, my mind playing tricks on me. But the cold spot was growing, spreading like an ink stain. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. I could feel an energy behind me coalescing, taking shape. It's hard to describe the sensation. It's like the air gets thicker, heavier, molded by an unseen force, a pressure against your senses. Most of the time, these presences are like smoke, but this one was different. This one was solidifying. As we approached the crematorium again, the feeling became overwhelming. The hair on my arms stood straight up. I risked another glance in the rearview mirror. For a split second, there was nothing. And then, she flickered into existence. It wasn't like the movies. No dramatic flash of light, no ghostly wail. It was more like a glitch in reality. One moment the seat was empty. The next, a dark smudge was there. Then the smudge resolved itself, details swimming into focus. This wasn't just a feeling. This was a full-blown apparition. She was sitting directly behind me. I could only see her from the chest up in the mirror. She was a woman, maybe late 20s, early 30s. Her hair was dark and long, plastered to her face as if she'd just been pulled from a lake. It was tangled with what looked like seaweed. Dark, slimy fronds were woven through her hair and draped over her shoulders. Her skin had a bluish, waterlogged pallor, and her lips were the color of a deep bruise. But her eyes, I will never, ever forget her eyes. They were wide, dark, and filled with this terrifying mixture of profound sadness and white-hot fury. And they were fixed on me in the mirror. She wasn't looking around the car or at my mother. She was looking right at me, and she knew I could see her. My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands started to shake. I wanted to scream, to slam on the brakes and run, but I was completely frozen. My foot was still on the gas, the car moving forward at a steady 30 miles per hour. My body totally detached from the terror in my mind. "Mom," I whispered, my voice a strangled croak. "Mom, do you feel that?" My mother turned her head slowly, her own face pale. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. She looked at me, at the terror she saw in my eyes. "What is it, honey?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. She knew. She might not have been able to see the spirit, but she could feel it. The oppressive cold, the suffocating weight of its sorrow and anger. "What do you see?" "There's someone in the car," I managed to say. "In the back seat." We passed the crematorium. The green glow from the dispensary washed over the car, illuminating the apparition in a sickly, alien light. For a brief second, I saw her more clearly. Her dress was a simple, dark sundress, torn at the shoulder and stained with dark patches I knew weren't just water. Her hands were resting on the back of my seat. They were wrinkled and white from being in water for a long time, the skin pruny and starting to decay. The spirit hadn't hitched a ride by accident. She'd been waiting on that strange, desolate road, and she had chosen our car. She had chosen me because she knew I would be her audience. The next few minutes were a blur of pure fear. I was focused on two things: keeping the car on the road and the reflection of the woman in my rearview mirror. She didn't move. She just sat there, dripping phantom water onto my upholstery. Her furious, heartbroken eyes locked on mine. The cold was intense now, like we were driving through a walk-in freezer. I could see my own breath fogging in front of my face. A smell started to fill the car. Stagnant water, river rot, and something else. The faint, coppery scent of blood. It was a full sensory assault. I felt like I was going to be sick. "Just keep driving," my mom said, her voice firm, cutting through my panic. She put her hand on my arm, a small, warm anchor in the icy terror. "Don't look at her. Focus on the road. Get us to a main street. Get us into the light." I tried. I really did. I forced my eyes forward, but it was like trying not to look at a car crash. My eyes were drawn, again and again, to the rearview mirror, to her. Her expression was changing. The sadness was still there, but the anger was growing, overtaking it. Her bruised lips pulled back from her teeth in a silent snarl. It was obvious she was trying to tell me something, and her frustration at failing was radiating off her in palpable waves. "What do you want?" I whispered, the words just slipping out. My mom's grip tightened. "Don't talk to it, honey. Don't engage." It was good advice. Standard procedure. You don't engage. You don't invite it in. But I had broken the rule. I had acknowledged her. And in doing so, I opened a door. The moment the words left my mouth, her energy surged. The car radio, which was off, suddenly blasted on with a deafening screech of static. It was so loud it felt like a physical blow. I flinched, my hands flying up to my ears as the car swerved. The lights on the dashboard flickered wildly. I don't understand," I shouted over the noise. And that's when she moved. In the mirror, I saw her lean forward. The smell of decay and salt water was suddenly overwhelming. Her waterlogged face was right behind my head, her aura a cold that sank deep into my bones. Her silent snarl was now a look of pure, desperate rage. She was screaming at me, but with no sound. A silent, agonizing shriek of trauma that slammed directly into my mind. It was a jumble of images and feelings. Panic, betrayal, the shock of cold water. She was getting angry because I wasn't getting the message. My fear was acting like static, blocking her. To her, I wasn't a terrified person. I was a broken TV, and her frustration was about to boil over. "She's angry," I gasped to my mom. "She's trying to show me something, but she's getting frustrated." The static on the radio stopped as abruptly as it began. The dashboard lights went back to normal. For a second, I thought it was over. I was wrong. It was the calm before the storm. I risked one last glance in the mirror. She had leaned back. Her expression wasn't just angry anymore. It was resolved. If I couldn't understand, she would make me understand in a language the living body could not ignore. Pain and terror. She raised her hands, those pale, decaying hands. And then, with a terrifyingly slow and deliberate motion, she reached forward. "Before I tell you what happened next, and I need you to prepare yourself because this is the part that still gives me nightmares, I just want to take a second. If you've ever had an experience you can't explain, something that has stuck with you, I want you to know you aren't alone. These stories are important. If you're finding this story compelling, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications. It helps more than you know. And now, back to that night and the moment everything escalated. Her hands came over the top of my seat. I saw them in my peripheral vision, pale and ghostly against the dark fabric. Time seemed to slow down. I could see every horrifying detail. The way the skin was puckered and loose, the grime under her broken fingernails. They didn't look transparent. They looked solid, real, and they were coming for me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body was completely rigid. My mom saw it happening. "No!" she screamed, her voice sharp with fear. She made a move as if to bat them away, but she knew it was useless. You can't fight a ghost. But these hands didn't pass through. The moment her fingers touched my shoulders, a shock of icy cold, so intense it felt like a burn, shot through my body. It wasn't just cold. It was a dead cold, the cold of the grave. And then her hands clamped around my neck. The pressure was immense. I felt her thumbs dig into the front of my throat, cutting off my air. I gagged, my eyes bulging. This couldn't be happening. Spirits can't touch you like this. It takes a level of energy, a level of raw power that is almost unheard of. This spirit wasn't just angry. She was fueled by the incandescent rage of her own violent end. I was being choked by a ghost. My hands flew to my own neck, trying to pull her hands away, but my fingers only found my own skin. I couldn't touch her, but she could touch me. My vision started to tunnel. Black spots danced in front of my eyes. The car was still moving, drifting across the lane. My mom was screaming my name, her voice sounding distant and distorted, as if coming from underwater. And as the world began to fade to black, that's when she showed me. It wasn't a thought anymore. It was a full-sensory, high-definition download of the last moments of her life, shoved directly into my mind. I wasn't in the car anymore. I wasn't me anymore. Suddenly, I was her. I was standing on the deck of a small boat. The sun was warm on my skin. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen. I could feel the gentle rocking of the boat, hear the cry of gulls. I was wearing a dark sundress. I felt happy. Then I heard a man's voice, sharp and angry. "What did you just say?" I turned. A man was standing there, his face in shadow, but I could feel the rage coming off him. It was the same rage from the spirit in my car. This was him. Her voice came out with no control from me. I said, "It's over, Mark. I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving." The world of the vision lurched. The man took a step forward, and I saw his face clearly. His handsome features were twisted into a mask of pure fury. "You're not leaving me," he snarled. "I am," I heard myself say, my voice shaking but firm. "I've already packed. I'm staying with my sister. It's done." The peaceful day shattered. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in like talons. "You're not going anywhere," he screamed. I tried to pull away. We struggled, the boat rocking violently. I stumbled backward and fell hard against the boat's railing. He was on me in an instant, his weight pinning me down, screaming in my face. And then his hands were around my neck. The sensation was grotesquely familiar. The same pressure, the same thumbs digging into my windpipe. But this time it was real. Flesh and blood. I was experiencing her murder from a first-person perspective. I felt the burning in my lungs, the desperate scratching of my own nails against his hands. I saw the blue sky start to go dark. The last thing I saw was his face, contorted with rage. The last thing I felt was the rough texture of a rope as he tied something heavy to my ankles. And then, the shocking, breathtaking cold as my body was pushed over the side and plunged into the dark, silent water. I came back to myself with a violent, shuddering gasp, like a drowning person breaking the surface. I was back in my car. My hands were clamped around my own throat, my nails digging into my skin. The pressure was gone. The car was stopped, half on the road, half on the gravel shoulder. The engine was still running. My mother was on the phone, her voice frantic. "Yes, I need an ambulance. My daughter, she can't breathe. I think she's having a seizure." "I'm okay," I rasped, my throat raw and aching. "Mom, hang up. I'm okay." She dropped the phone and turned to me, her face a mess of tears and terror. "Oh my God, what was that? Your face, you were turning blue. You weren't breathing." I took a few more deep, ragged breaths. The cold in the car was gone. The oppressive weight had lifted. The smell of decay was gone. I looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. She was gone. Her rage was spent. Her story was told. I started to cry, not just from the fear, but from the crushing weight of what I just experienced. The sorrow of her stolen life, the brutality of her end. It was a part of me now, a traumatic memory that wasn't my own, burned into my soul. My mom reached over and pulled me into a fierce hug. We just sat there for what felt like an eternity on that dark, deserted road. The only sound the humming of the engine and my own ragged sobs. She was murdered. I finally whispered into my mom's shoulder. He strangled her, on a boat. Then he threw her in the ocean. My mom just held me tighter. She didn't ask for details. She knew some things are too terrible to be spoken aloud. She understood the burden of this gift. Slowly, shakily, I put the car in drive. I didn't need the GPS anymore. I found a main road within minutes, the bright streetlights feeling like a benediction. The drive home was silent. What could we possibly say? We had touched the raw, violent edge of the spirit world, and it had left us both shaken to our core. When we got home, my mom insisted on checking my neck. Under the bathroom light, we could both see them. Faint, reddish marks on either side of my throat, right where I had felt her thumbs pressing down. They weren't from my own nails. They were bruises, the faint, ghostly fingerprints of an enraged spirit. They faded by morning, but I can still feel them sometimes, a phantom pressure when I think about her. We never talked about what to do with the information. Who would we tell? The police? Hello, officer. A ghost told me about a murder? We'd be dismissed as lunatics. We had no name, no location, no real evidence beyond the fading bruises on my neck and a story that defied all rational explanation. The spirit didn't give me her name or his. She was just a soul screaming her trauma into the void, and I was just the unlucky receiver that happened to tune in. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, but nothing has ever come close to the sheer terror of that night. Changed me. It made me realize that being clairvoyant isn't just about seeing gentle apparitions in old houses. It's being open to everything, and that includes the pain, the rage, and the violence that spirits can carry with them. She wasn't seeking peace. She was demanding to be heard. I still think about her all the time. I think about the warmth of the sun on her skin in her final happy moment. I hope that by passing her story to me, by finally having someone witness her truth, she found some kind of release. I hope she's no longer tied to that lonely stretch of road, waiting in the dark. I hope she has found peace. And now I want to turn it over to you. Have you ever had an experience that you couldn't explain? A moment where the veil between worlds felt terrifyingly thin? Share your story in the comments below. Reading about the experiences of others helps us all feel a little less alone in this strange and sometimes scary world. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more stories and explorations into the unseen, please like and subscribe. Stay safe out there.